The fire alarm screamed through the hallway as Kira stood perfectly still, one hand halfway to her backpack's hidden knife compartment, the other frozen mid-reach toward a student who'd just tripped and grabbed her arm for balance. The student, now on the floor, stared up at her with wide eyes while smoke billowed from the chemistry lab 3 doors down. Kira's jaw clenched as she forced her hand away from the weapon, slowly helping the kid up instead, while every instinct screamed to assess threats, locate exits, and neutralize the situation. "That was close," she muttered, releasing the student who scrambled away. Around her, teenagers shrieked and laughed, treating the evacuation like a party, shoving phones in each other's faces for videos. Nobody was maintaining defensive positions. Nobody was checking corners. "Exciting first day, huh?" Devon, the human student council president, with an aggressively friendly smile and a clipboard he never stopped holding, appeared beside her, gesturing enthusiastically toward the exit. His blonde hair flopped over his forehead as he bounced on his heels.
Don't worry, this happens like once a month. Someone always mixes the wrong chemicals during free period.
Kira turned to stare at him, her scarred hands still twitching at her sides. "Once a month." "Yeah, last time it was green smoke. This is way less dramatic." He beamed at her, completely oblivious to her horror, then gestured to the emergency exit with his clipboard. "Come on, we gotta get to the assembly point. Ms. Hartley takes attendance super seriously." Outside on the lawn, Kira positioned herself with her back to a brick wall, scanning the crowd while Devon chattered beside her about Spirit Week themes. The human teacher, Ms. Hartley, bounced around in a cardigan covered in embroidered smiley faces, taking roll call with aggressive enthusiasm. Her voice rang out across the grass like artillery fire. "Kira! Oh, there you are, sweetie!" Ms. Hartley bounded over, clipboard in hand, her brown hair in a ponytail that swished as she moved. She grabbed Kira's shoulder with both hands.
How are you settling in, making friends? Did anyone show you where the library is?
We have a wonderful library.
"I found the exits," Kira said flatly. Ms. Hartley's smile didn't falter. "That's the spirit, always prepared. Just like our school motto says, today's learning, tomorrow's success." She gestured wildly at a banner hanging from the building, which was currently being consumed by smoke from the second floor. "Oops! Well, we'll get a new one." That's when the spacecraft landed. It descended silently onto the soccer field, a sleek metallic oval that displaced the grass with gentle anti-gravity waves. A ramp extended, and 3 figures emerged into the afternoon sunlight. The students immediately started filming, crowding forward with phones raised. The first alien, Zix, the insectoid with 4 arms and a chitinous bronze exoskeleton gleaming under the sun, descended the ramp with precise mechanical movements. Her compound emerald eyes refracted light in kaleidoscope patterns as she surveyed the crowd. Behind her walked Vrask, the crystalline administrator whose body was composed of shifting geometric crystal plates in deep violet. His 6 spider-like legs clicked against the metal ramp as he moved, his faceted head rotating to scan the area with light emanating from within his crystalline structure. The last to emerge was Thornback, the massive reptilian military liaison, his 8-foot scaled frame covered in purple-blue bruised coloring. His 3 vertical amber eyes locked onto the smoking building, and he released a low hiss through his fanged mouth. "Students of Earth Educational Facility, 47B." Zix's voice buzzed from a translator around her thorax as her mandibles clicked rapidly. Her 4 arms gestured in synchronized patterns. "We represent the Galactic Education Initiative. We have come to observe your learning protocols." Ms. Hartley rushed forward, hand extended for a handshake, her cardigan flapping. "Oh, how wonderful! We love visitors."
Welcome to Kennedy High. I'm Miss Hartley, homeroom teacher. Can I get you some coffee? We have a fresh pot in the teacher's lounge.
Vrask's crystal plates shifted in his body, rotating to form new geometric patterns as light pulsed through his structure in alarmed red. His voice resonated from within his crystalline form like echoing chimes. "Your fluid offerings concern us." Kira remained against the wall, watching the interaction with tactical assessment. 3 aliens, unknown combat capabilities, 1 spacecraft, probably armed. The crowd of students provided cover, but also obstacles. Her hand drifted to her backpack again. Thornback's massive, scaled frame moved forward, his clawed hands clasped behind his back. His 3 amber eyes fixed on the smoking building, then shifted to scan the laughing students. "This is educational protocol? Explosions and chaos? During daylight hours?" "Chemistry accident," Devon called out cheerfully, waving his clipboard. "Totally normal." The reptilian's scales shifted from purple-blue to deeper violet, a color change that rippled across his entire body. "Normal." "He's right," Ms. Hartley chirped, pulling out her phone to show pictures. "Last month we had a small incident with the biology lab."
And in September, the gymnasium ceiling collapsed during dodgeball. The kids made a TikTok about it that got 50,000 views.
Zix's 4 arms began moving in agitated patterns, her compound eyes reflecting fractured images of the chaos. Her mandibles clicked faster. "This facility has sustained multiple catastrophic events, and yet you continue operations?" "Well, yeah," Devon said, stepping forward with his perpetual smile. "That's just school, man. Where are you guys from, anyway?" Thornback's 3 eyes narrowed as he leaned down to Devon's level, his fanged mouth inches from the human's face. "We are from civilizations where educational facilities do not spontaneously combust." Devon nodded enthusiastically, completely unfazed. "Cool. Must be boring, though." The reptilian's eyes went wide, all 3 of them dilating simultaneously. He straightened to his full height, scales rippling with confusion. "Boring? You consider survival boring?" "Kira, honey," Ms. Hartley called out, waving both arms over her head. "Come meet our visitors. You two have so much in common."
Discipline, structure, military background.
Kira's entire body tensed as every head turned toward her. She pushed off the wall slowly, approaching with measured steps, while her eyes tracked every alien's movement. Zix's compound eyes fixed on her immediately, mandibles stopping mid-click. "Military?" Vrask's crystal plates rotated rapidly, light shifting to curious yellow within his faceted structure. His 6 spider-like legs adjusted position, bringing him closer. "This small human has military experience?" "Oh, yes." Ms. Hartley beamed, throwing an arm around Kira's shoulders while Kira stood rigid. "Kira's transitioning from, well, she's had quite the unique background. We're so excited to have her join our school family." Thornback's scales shifted to interested orange as he leaned closer, his clawed hand extending toward Kira in what might have been a greeting gesture. "You have seen combat?" Kira's hand moved to intercept his wrist before her brain caught up, muscle memory taking over. She stopped herself an inch away, forcing her arm back to her side. "Yes." "How many campaigns?" Thornback's 3 eyes gleamed with professional interest, his tail sweeping behind him in a casual arc. "Classified." Zix's 4 arms moved in what might have been approval, her bronze exoskeleton catching the light. "Proper operational security. This one understands protocol." Her mandibles clicked in a new pattern. "Perhaps this facility is not entirely hopeless." "So," Devon interjected, bouncing between Kira and the aliens with his clipboard raised. "Are you guys here to, judge our school? Because we're actually doing way better than last year. We only lost 3 classrooms to flooding, and the cafeteria food poisoning incident was resolved super quick." Vrask's entire crystalline body pulsed bright red, his geometric plates shifting frantically. Light flared from within his faceted head. 3 classrooms. Flooding. Food poisoning. Yeah, but nobody died, Devon added helpfully. Thornback's scales went completely black. Nobody died? That is your measurement of success. Well, yeah, Ms. Hartley chimed in, pulling out a folder from seemingly nowhere. We have excellent safety statistics. Last year, we only had 23 trips to the emergency room, down from 31 the year before. We even got a certificate from the district. Zix's compound eyes began reflecting more fractured light, her forearms moving in increasingly distressed patterns. We have made a terrible error in selecting this facility for observation. Nah, you're gonna love it here. Devon grabbed Thornback's massive clawed hand and started shaking it enthusiastically. The reptilian stood frozen, his three eyes locked on the small human, grasping his combat-trained appendage. We're doing a Spirit Week next month. Tuesday is Pajama Day. Thornback's voice dropped to a whisper as his scales shifted through confused colors, orange to green to blue. You wear sleeping garments to an educational facility. For morale, Ms. Hartley added, clasping her hands together. The fire truck arrived then, sirens wailing, and firefighters poured out to tackle the smoke still billowing from the second floor. Students cheered. Someone started a chant. Devon joined in, still holding Thornback's hand. The reptilian looked down at him with an expression that might have been existential horror. Kira felt a laugh building in her chest, the first in months, and crushed it down hard. This was insane. This was all insane. She'd survived 3 years of guerrilla warfare, only to watch a teenager shake hands with an 8-foot combat-trained alien while cheering about Spirit Week. We should perhaps begin our formal assessment. Vrask's crystal plates rotated, light dimming to uncertain gray within his structure. His 6 legs clicked as he gestured toward the building. Inside the facility? Great idea. Ms. Hartley started toward the building, then paused as a firefighter blocked her path. Oh, right. Fire hazard. Okay, plan B. We'll start with the cafeteria. Lunch period just started. The aliens followed Ms. Hartley like condemned prisoners walking to execution, with Devon cheerfully narrating facts about the school's history. Kira trailed behind, keeping tactical distance while watching the aliens' body language. Zix's 4 arms kept twitching toward what might have been weapon positions. Thornback's tail swept in defensive arcs. Vrask's crystal plates rotated constantly. Defensive. Formations shifting across his body. They knew danger when they saw it. They just didn't understand that the danger here wasn't physical. The cafeteria assault began immediately upon entry. The large industrial space, with its long tables and harsh overhead lighting, erupted in chaos as students spotted the aliens. Someone threw a bread roll. It bounced off Thornback's scaled head. The reptilian froze mid-step, his 3 amber eyes tracking the trajectory back to a giggling freshman who immediately took a selfie. Food projectile, Thornback said slowly, his clawed hand reaching up to touch his head where the roll had struck. That was a food projectile. Oh yeah, Food Fight Fridays are super popular. Devon gestured to the serving line where students grabbed metal trays piled with mysterious brown substance. Come on, you gotta try the chili. It's actually edible today. Zix's mandibles clicked in alarm as she watched students shove each other in line, trays clattering. Her 4 arms moved in defensive positions. This is acceptable behavior during feeding time? Technically, no, Ms. Hartley admitted. But we pick our battles. Now, let me get you some trays. We do not require sustenance, Vrask interrupted, his crystal plates shifting to anxious yellow, light pulsing rapidly. His 6 legs backed away as a student rushed past, nearly colliding with his crystalline form. We merely wish to observe learning. Lunch is learning, Ms. Hartley insisted, pushing a tray into Zix's upper right arm. The insectoid stared at it with all her compound eyes. Social skills, nutrition education, life preparation. Kira grabbed her own tray and moved through the line with military efficiency, loading her plate while tracking the aliens' positions. She found a table in the corner, with sight lines to all exits, and sat with her back to the wall. Old habits. The aliens, shepherded by Devon and Ms. Hartley, ended up at the table next to hers. Thornback attempted to sit on the attached bench and immediately discovered he was far too large. His scaled frame hung awkwardly over both sides, tail dragging on the floor. He stared at his tray of chili with three-eyed disgust. "What is this substance?" he asked, poking it with his claw. The chili jiggled. "Mystery meat," a student called from across the cafeteria. "We think it's beef." "You think?" Zix's forearms all clutched her tray simultaneously, bronze exoskeleton gleaming under the harsh lights. "You consume substances of unknown origin?" "Welcome to public school," Devon laughed, shoveling chili into his mouth. Definitely beef. Or pork, possibly turkey." Vrask's entire crystalline body pulsed deep purple, light flickering erratically through his geometric plates. "This is horrifying." "First time?" Kira spoke up from her table, not looking at them, focused on her own food. "Wait until you see gym class." Thornback's three eyes locked onto her, scales shifting to interested orange again. "You find this environment challenging?" "I find it incomprehensible." Kira took a bite of her sandwich, chewing slowly. "Last week I was dodging artillery. Now I'm supposed to care about homecoming themes." "Artillery?" Zix's mandibles stopped clicking entirely. "You are a child. You should not know what artillery is." "Cool. Tell that to the warlords." The cafeteria went quiet around them. Students stopped eating, phones raised. Ms. Hartley's smile froze on her face. Devon's clipboard clattered to the table. Thornback stood slowly, his massive frame towering over the table, scales darkening to respectful gray. "You are a warrior." "Was." Kira met his three-eyed gaze without flinching. "Now, I'm whatever this is." "This is education!" Ms. Hartley recovered quickly, her voice too loud, too bright. "This is healing! This is moving forward!" "This is chaos pretending to be order," Kira said quietly. "It's worse than combat. At least in combat, I knew the rules." Vrask's 6 spider-like legs brought him closer, his crystal plates rotating to form softer, rounded shapes. Light shifted to gentle blue within his structure. "You are attempting to adapt to incomprehensible civilian protocols after surviving warfare." "Yeah," Kira pushed her tray away. "And everyone keeps telling me how normal this is. The fires, the food poisoning, the random lockdown drills that aren't drills. Yesterday someone set off fireworks in the parking lot for a gender reveal party, and I hit the deck behind a car while everyone laughed." "That's just Tyler," Devon said helpfully. "He's super into pyrotechnics." Thornback's tail slammed against the floor, creating a boom that silenced the entire cafeteria. His scales rippled dark red, combat stance engaged. "You allow explosive devices on school grounds?" "They were just fireworks," Ms. Hartley said, wringing her hands. "Small ones. We gave Tyler detention." "Detention?" The reptilian's voice dropped to a growl. "4 weapons charges." "They weren't weapons," Devon protested. "They were celebratory explosives." Zix's 4 arms moved in frantic patterns, her bronze exoskeleton catching the light as she gestured wildly. Her mandibles clicked so fast they created a buzzing sound. "The distinction is meaningless. This facility operates in constant crisis mode while pretending normalcy." "That's what I've been saying!" Kira stood abruptly, her hands flat on the table. "Everyone acts like it's fine that the ceiling collapsed, or the chemistry lab caught fire, or there's mold growing in the East Wing that the janitor just painted over." "There's mold?" Vrask's crystal plates shifted violently, light flashing red throughout his entire structure. "Tons! They gave us a handout about acceptable spore exposure levels." Thornback's scales went completely black again as he turned to Ms. Hartley. His 3 eyes narrowed. You are operating a facility that is actively toxic to your young. It's district policy. Ms. Hartley pulled out her phone, scrolling frantically. We filed 17 maintenance requests. We're number 43 on the priority list. 43? Zix's compound eyes refracted horror in 1,000 fractured images. Well, School 12 has that sinkhole situation, and School 28's roof is literally missing. And School 5 has the raccoon infestation in the walls. Stop. Thornback held up one massive clawed hand, scales shifting through confused colors. Raccoon infestation. They're actually pretty cute, Devon offered. Sometimes they watch class through the ceiling tiles. The aliens stared at him. Kira stared at him. The entire cafeteria stared at him. What? Devon shrugged, clutching his clipboard. They are. That's when the lockdown alarm started blaring. The sound was different from the fire alarm. Deeper, more insistent. Red lights flooded the cafeteria, replacing the harsh white fluorescence. Students screamed, some laughing, some genuinely panicked. Ms. Hartley immediately started. Counting heads, her cheerfulness replaced by mechanical efficiency. Lockdown positions, everyone! You know the drill! She pointed to corners of the room, herding students. Away from windows and doors! Kira, honey, you need to… But Kira was already moving, muscle memory taking control. She grabbed Vrask's crystalline arm, surprisingly solid despite its appearance, and pulled him behind the serving counter. Zix followed with her forearms raised defensively. Thornback's combat instincts kicked in immediately, his massive scaled body dropping into a crouch as his 3 eyes scanned for threats. What is the threat? Thornback's voice dropped to a tactical whisper, his clawed hands flexing. Enemy combatants? Hostile forces? Could be anything, Kira whispered back, positioning herself with a view of both doors. Active shooter drill, or actual active shooter, or someone spotted a suspicious person, or it's another gender reveal party. You cannot be serious. Zix's mandibles barely moved, her bronze exoskeleton pressed against the metal counter. Last month, it was a lost pizza delivery guy who walked into the wrong building. Vrask's crystal plates rotated silently, his light dimmed to nearly nothing. A pizza delivery triggered a facility-wide alert? Better safe than sorry, they said. Kira's hands remained steady, years of training overriding the trembling in her chest. Then they made us sit in lockdown for 90 minutes, while they verified he was actually just lost. Devon crawled over to them, clipboard still clutched in his hands, completely unbothered by the alarm. Oh, good. You guys found a solid position. Kira's great at this stuff. Last drill, she had the whole class organized in like 30 seconds. This happens regularly? Thornback's scales shifted to horrified black. Monthly drills, plus a few real ones scattered throughout the year. Kira watched the doors, tracking movement. Welcome to Earth education. The aliens looked at each other, Zix's compound eyes reflecting shared horror, Vrask's crystal plates shifting in synchronized distress, Thornback's 3 eyes wide with disbelief. They'd crossed light years to observe Earth's educational systems. They were beginning to understand why humanity terrified the galaxy. Not because humans were warriors, though Kira proved they could be. Not because they were technologically advanced, but because they somehow took children, subjected them to constant chaos, near-death experiences, and institutional negligence, then acted like it was completely normal. And those children just adapted, laughed about it, made TikToks, threw bread rolls at aliens. Your species is insane, Thornback finally said, his voice carrying a mix of horror and reluctant respect. Yeah, Kira agreed quietly. But we're still here. The lockdown alarm cut off abruptly. The principal's voice crackled over the intercom. False alarm, everyone! Looks like someone accidentally hit the panic button in the gym office. Resume normal activities. Students immediately started standing up, laughing, pulling out phones, completely unfazed. Devin jumped to his feet, brushing off his pants. See? No big deal. Happens all the time. Zix stood slowly on her 4 legs, her bronze exoskeleton catching the returning fluorescent lights. Her mandibles clicked in a pattern that might have been disbelief. All the time. Hey, at least we didn't have to sit for 90 minutes this time. Ms. Hartley's cheerfulness returned instantly as she started ushering students back to their seats. That's progress. Vrask's 6 spider-like legs clicked against the linoleum as he emerged from behind the counter, his crystal plates still shifting through uncertain colors. This is your definition of progress, not preventing the incidents, simply reducing their duration. You're catching on. Devin patted Vrask's crystalline arm with dangerous familiarity. The alien administrator flinched, light flaring red briefly before settling back to confused yellow. Kira remained in her tactical position for a moment longer, scanning the room one final time before forcing herself to relax. Every false alarm, every drill, every actual emergency, they all triggered the same response. Her therapist said it would fade with time. She was starting to doubt that. Thornback approached her, his massive scaled frame casting a shadow over her position. His 3 amber eyes studied her with professional assessment. You did not panic. You secured the vulnerable positions. You maintained sight lines and exit awareness. Training, Kira said simply. Not school training. His tail swept behind him in a thoughtful arc. Combat training. You commanded this situation better than your designated authority figure. Ms. Hartley heard this and bustled over, her cardigan askew from the lockdown scramble. Oh, Kira's special. We're so lucky to have her perspective. She's going to do amazing things. If she survives this facility, Zix interjected, her forearms crossing over her bronze chest, which remains statistically uncertain. Our survival rate is actually pretty good. Devin flipped through his clipboard pages. Like 99.8%. That's almost perfect. Almost. All 3 aliens spoke simultaneously, their voices creating a discordant harmony of horror. Well, there was that one incident with the woodshop. Stop talking, Thornback commanded, his scales flashing warning red. His clawed hand raised for silence. We must speak with whoever is responsible for this facility. Immediately. Oh, you want Principal Davidson? Ms. Hartley checked her watch. He should be back from lunch in about 20 minutes. He usually goes to the diner down the street because our cafeteria gave him food poisoning twice. Twice, Vrask repeated, his crystal plates rotating in barely contained rage. The facility administrator contracts foodborne illness from his own facility. Twice. And continues to operate. What else is he going to do? Shut down the whole school? Devin laughed, completely missing the alien's expressions. That's crazy talk. Is it, though? Kira stood, brushing herself off. Maybe shutting it down would be the sane response. The cafeteria had returned to normal chaos, students laughing, trays clattering, someone's phone blasting music despite the no-phone policy. The mold smell from the east wing was creeping into the ventilation system again. A ceiling tile in the corner was water-stained and sagging. One of the vending machines was sparking slightly. And everyone just accepted it. I need to see your facility records, Zix announced, her mandibles clicking with determined precision. Incident reports, safety violations, maintenance logs, all of it. Oh, sure. Principal Davidson loves transparency. Ms. Hartley pulled out her phone, texting rapidly with her thumbs. I'll let him know you're interested in our documentation. He'll be so excited. Excited? Thornback's voice dripped with skepticism as his 3 eyes narrowed. He will be excited about safety audits. Well, yeah. We haven't had a formal inspection since the state cut funding for that program 3 years ago. Ms. Hartley beamed like this was wonderful news. He's been dying to show someone all his files. Vrask's entire crystalline body pulsed such bright red that several students nearby shielded their eyes. 3 years, no, inspections. Budget cuts, Devon offered cheerfully. The state had to prioritize. We got new football uniforms, though. Super nice ones. Kira watched the aliens process this information, Zix's forearms moving in increasingly agitated patterns. Thornback's scales cycling through colors so fast he looked like a kaleidoscope. Vrask's crystal plates shifting into sharp, aggressive formations. They were experiencing what she'd felt for weeks. The dawning realization that this place operated on a level of dysfunction that shouldn't be possible. "You guys want to see the gym?" Devon asked, oblivious to the tension. "We're doing basketball today. It's super fun, except for the part where the floorboards are warped and people keep rolling their ankles." "People keep rolling their ankles," Zix repeated slowly, her compound eyes reflecting Devon's cheerful face in 1,000 horrified fragments. "And you continue using this gymnasium." "Where else would we do gym class? Outside? It's winter." "In a safe facility," Thornback roared, his tail slamming the floor again. Students barely looked up. They were used to weird noises. "A facility that does not actively injure your young." "Okay, you're being dramatic now," Miss Hartley said, her smile strained. "The ankle thing only happens like twice a month." "Twice a month?" "Look," Kira interjected, drawing all eyes to her. "You're not going to win this argument with logic or safety concerns. I've tried. Everyone here has accepted that this is just how things are. The building falls apart, people get hurt, nothing gets fixed properly, and we all just deal with it." "How?" Vrask's 6 legs clicked as he moved closer to her, light dimming to a soft blue within his crystal structure. "How do you maintain psychological stability in constant crisis?" Kira laughed, a short, bitter sound. "Who says we do? Half my class is on anxiety meds. The school counselor has a 3-month waiting list, and Tyler expresses his feelings through pyrotechnics." "This is unconscionable," Zix said quietly, her mandibles still. "Your government allows this?" "Encourages it, technically," Devon said, still cheerful despite the darkness of the statement. "Lower property taxes mean less school funding, which means we all get really good at adapting. It builds character." "It builds trauma," Kira corrected. "Character is what we tell ourselves so we don't completely lose it." The bell rang, a harsh electronic screech that made all 3 aliens flinch. Students immediately jumped up, grabbing their trays, flooding toward the exit in a chaotic mass. No organization, no order, just controlled chaos that somehow functioned. "That's the period bell!" Ms. Hartley started herding everyone toward the doors. "Time for 5th period. Kira, you have English with Mr. Patterson? He's wonderful, very enthusiastic about Shakespeare." "Don't care about Shakespeare," Kira muttered, but followed the crowd anyway. Behind her, the aliens stood frozen in the middle of the emptying cafeteria, processing everything they'd witnessed. "We must file an emergency report," Zix said finally, her forearms moving in decisive patterns. "The Galactic Council needs to know about this." "Know about what?" Thornback's scales had settled into a grim gray. "That humans operate educational facilities like military training grounds without actually calling them that? That they traumatize their young and call it character building," Vrask added, his crystal plates rotating slowly. "That they've normalized crisis to the point where children laugh during lockdowns. That they somehow survive it all and still function," Zix finished, her compound eyes tracking Kira's retreating form through the cafeteria doors. "That's the terrifying part. They survive. They adapt. They make jokes about the trauma." "Classic human behavior," Thornback growled, following the crowd toward the hallway. "Take the unacceptable and make it routine." We've seen it in every war zone humans have touched. Now we see where they learn it. The aliens followed Ms. Hartley and Devon through the corridors, observing what they now recognized as systematic chaos. Water fountains that didn't work, flickering lights, walls with fresh paint covering obvious structural damage, students navigating it all with practiced ease, laughing, chatting, completely adapted to their dysfunctional environment. They passed the gym where Devon had mentioned the warped floorboards. Through the window, they could see a class in session, teenagers playing basketball, while carefully avoiding 3 obvious danger zones marked only by slightly discolored tape on the floor. "Those are the ankle-breaking spots," Devon explained helpfully. "Everyone knows to avoid them. See? System works." "That is not a system," Vrask said, his crystalline form vibrating with barely contained rage. "That is neglect with extra steps." They passed the east wing where the mold grew. The smell was stronger here, musty and wrong. Students walked through it without comment, some holding their breath, others seemingly immune through exposure. "Should we be breathing this?" Zix asked, her mandibles clicking nervously. "Probably not," Ms. Hartley admitted, walking faster through the corridor. "But the report said elevated spore levels, not dangerous spore levels. So legally, we're fine." "Legally," Thornback roared, scales flashing red. They arrived at Principal Davidson's office just as the human man returned from lunch, carrying a takeout container and whistling cheerfully. He was in his 50s, balding, wearing a tie decorated with cartoon pencils. He looked exactly like someone who'd been crushed by bureaucracy until he stopped caring about anything except survival. "Ms. Hartley! And, oh my!" He stopped, staring at the 3 aliens crowding his hallway. "We have visitors! From space! How exciting! Come in, come in!" His office was cramped, filled with file cabinets overflowing with paperwork. Motivational posters covered the walls. "Hang in there," featuring a cat. "You miss 100% of the shots you don't take." And, ironically, safety first. A plant in the corner was dying. His desk was buried under forms. "Welcome to Kennedy High." Principal Davidson shook each alien's hand enthusiastically, not noticing Thornback's horrified recoil or Zix's frozen mandibles. "I'm Principal Davidson. What brings you to our little corner of chaos? I mean, our educational institution?" "We are conducting observational assessments of Earth educational facilities," Zix said carefully, her 4 arms folded. "We have concerns." "Oh, sure, sure. Everyone has concerns. The district has concerns. The parents have concerns. The teachers have concerns. Want to see my concern folder?" He gestured to an entire file cabinet labeled "Concerns Do Not Open." "That is an entire cabinet," Vrask said flatly, his crystal plates shifting to disbelieving blue. "Yeah, it's alphabetized and everything. Super organized," Principal Davidson beamed with pride. "I'm really on top of things." "You have a cabinet full of unaddressed concerns, and consider this being on top of things." Thornback repeated slowly, trying to process the logic. "Well, they're addressed. I wrote received and acknowledged on all of them. Can't do much more than that with the budget we have." He pulled out a massive binder and dropped it on his desk with a heavy thud. "Here's our incident report log. Would you like to see?" Zix opened the binder. Her compound eyes went wide. Her mandibles stopped moving. Her 4 arms froze in place. It was 600 pages long, this year alone. "What?" she finally managed to say. "Are all of these?" "Oh, just the usual. Injuries, property damage, minor fires, major fires, flooding, electrical issues, structural concerns, health code violations. We had a great year, actually. Down from 850 pages last year." "Down!" Vrask's entire crystalline body flared bright red, light exploding from within his structure. "You consider 600 pages of incidents an improvement?" "Well, yeah. We implemented a new safety protocol where we actually lock the chemistry supply closet now. Really cut down on the unauthorized experiments. Unauthorized experiments? All three aliens spoke in unison. Just teenagers being teenagers. Principal Davidson laughed, eating from his takeout container. You know how kids are. Curious, energetic, occasionally explosive. Thornback stood to his full 8-foot height, his scales cycling through every color of rage. His 3 amber eyes bore into the principal with military intensity. Do you understand that you are operating a combat zone disguised as a school? Combat zone. That's a bit dramatic, don't you think? Principal Davidson waved his fork dismissively. We're just underfunded and doing our best. Children are injured here monthly. Zix's voice dropped to a dangerous buzz. Your building is literally toxic. Your equipment is dangerously faulty. Your protocols are non-existent. We have protocols. He pulled out another binder. See? 40 pages of protocols. Do you follow them? Brask asked, his 6 legs clicking forward. Well, we try to. When we remember. And when we have the resources, which is occasionally. Principal Davidson's smile faltered for the first time. Look, I know it's not perfect, but what am I supposed to do? The district won't give us money. The state cut our budget. Parents complain but vote against tax increases. I'm Q, just trying to keep the doors open and the kids learning. They are learning, Thornback said quietly, his scales settling into somber gray. They are learning that authority figures will fail them, that their safety is not a priority, that they must adapt to unacceptable conditions because no one will fix them. Principal Davidson's face fell. His cheerfulness vanished. He suddenly looked very old and very tired. Yeah, that's what they're learning. The office went silent except for the flickering fluorescent light overhead and the distant sound of students in the hallways. The dying plant in the corner seemed like a metaphor for the entire situation. We need to speak with your district leadership, Zix said finally, and your state education board, and possibly your planetary government. Good luck with that, Principal Davidson said bitterly, pushing the binders toward them. I've been trying for 8 years. Everyone says they care about education write-ups until it costs money. Then we will make them care. Brask's crystal plates shifted into sharp, aggressive formations, light pulsing with determination. The Galactic Council has significant resources, and we do not accept underfunded as an excuse for child endangerment. Galactic Council? Principal Davidson blinked. Like space government? Exactly like space government, Thornback confirmed, his clawed hands resting on the desk. And unlike your Earth governments, when we identify unacceptable conditions, we actually fix them. Can you fix this? Principal Davidson gestured helplessly at his office, at his school, at everything. Because I've been trying, and I'm so tired. The 3 aliens looked at each other. They'd come to observe Earth's educational systems. They'd found systematic neglect dressed up as normal. And somehow, impossibly, humans were surviving it. Not thriving, surviving, adapting. Making jokes about trauma while their teachers bought supplies with their own money and principals drowned in unfixed problems. We will fix this, Zix said firmly, her 4 arms moving in synchronized determination. Consider it a matter of galactic intervention. Does this mean we're getting new ceiling tiles? Devon asked from the doorway, where he'd been listening with his eternal clipboard. You are getting an entirely new facility, Vrask declared, his crystalline form glowing bright blue with resolution. With proper ventilation, and no mold, and floors that do not injure your young. And budget allocation that actually covers operational needs, Thornback added, pulling out an alien communication device. I am declaring this an emergency humanitarian situation. Humanitarian? Principal Davidson looked confused. But everyone's alive? That is not the standard for humanitarian intervention, Zix said firmly. The standard is ensuring dignified, safe conditions, which this facility comprehensively fails to provide. Devon started typing on his clipboard, suddenly serious for the first time. Should I, tell people? Because this is going to be big news. Aliens fixing our school. That's incredible. Tell everyone, Vrask said, his 6 legs clicking with purpose. Your entire education system needs this intervention. We will start here and expand. Principal Davidson started crying, just quiet tears running down his face while he nodded. Thank you. I've been trying to say this for years and nobody listened. We are listening, Thornback said, his massive scaled hand resting gently on the principal's shoulder. And we have the resources to actually help. That's when Kira appeared in the doorway, her expression wary. Ms. Hartley said there was commotion. What's happening? The aliens are fixing our school, Devon said, grinning at his clipboard. They're calling it a humanitarian crisis. Kira looked at the 3 aliens, then at Principal Davidson crying at his desk, then at the 600-page incident report binder. She laughed. A real laugh this time, not bitter, just surprised and maybe a little hopeful. A humanitarian crisis. Yeah, that tracks. You approve? Zix asked, her compound eyes focusing on the young warrior. I approve of someone finally admitting this is insane, Kira said, leaning against the doorframe. I thought I was crazy for thinking explosions shouldn't be normal. You are the only sane person in this facility, Thornback declared, which is deeply concerning about everyone else. The aliens got to work immediately, contacting the Galactic Council with emergency protocols. Within hours, a full intervention team was dispatched to Earth. Within days, engineers were assessing the building. Within weeks, funding was allocated, not just for Kennedy High, but for school districts across the country. The humans resisted at first, pride wounded by alien intervention. But then Vrask released the incident reports publicly. All 600 pages, plus reports from other schools showing similar patterns. The outrage was immediate and overwhelming. Politicians scrambled to explain why they'd allowed this. Parents demanded answers. Teachers thanked the aliens with tears in their eyes. Students started a social media campaign, Jand Galactic PTA. And through it all, Kira watched humanity finally admit that their character-building education system was actually just systematic neglect. That their children deserved better. That adaptation to unacceptable conditions was not a victory. It was a failure of the adults who were supposed to protect them. The renovations took 6 months. New building, new equipment, proper safety protocols, adequate staffing, mental health resources, the works. On the first day of the reopened Kennedy High, Kira walked through hallways that smelled clean. She sat in a classroom with functioning equipment and no water damage. She ate in a cafeteria where the food was actually safe. It felt wrong at first. Too quiet. Too safe. Too normal. But she'd adapt to that too. Just like she'd adapted to war and then chaos. Maybe this time, adaptation would actually lead somewhere good. Devon found her at lunch, still carrying his clipboard, but now tracking things like new library books and functioning water fountains instead of incident reports. This is weird, right? He said, sitting beside her. Like, good weird, but weird. Very weird, Kira agreed. I keep waiting for something to catch fire. Me too, he laughed. The aliens left monitoring systems just in case. Thornback said he doesn't trust us not to break everything. Smart alien. They sat in comfortable silence, watching other students adjust to their new, actually safe environment. Some seemed confused, others relieved. Most just grateful. "Hey, Kira," Devon said eventually. "Thanks for making them see it. The craziness. They might not have noticed without you pointing it out. I didn't do anything. You survived. And you called it what it was." He tapped his clipboard. That mattered. Kira thought about that, about survival, about adaptation, about the difference between enduring and actually living. "Yeah," she said finally. "Maybe it did." Above them, the new ceiling tiles were pristine white. No water damage, no sagging, no raccoons hiding in the crawl space. It was a small thing, but it meant everything. And somewhere in orbit, 3 aliens monitored their first successful humanitarian intervention on Earth, taking notes for the next school district on their list. They'd come to observe human education. They'd stayed to fix it. Because that's what civilized species did when they found unacceptable conditions. They didn't accept them. They changed them.